Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining me for tonight's episode of Beyond the Ballot. I'm Brady Meyer. It's good to be back after a short vacation, though I did return to Upper Michigan just in time for Election Day yesterday, which is the topic of today's episode. We'll be doing things a little bit differently today. I don't have a guest. Instead, this will be a slightly shorter election special recap episode with a lot more of just me kind of talking. I'm going to be breaking down some of the election results for the May election and hear from some of the people affected by the outcomes of yesterday's vote. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with the community where last night we got our first wave of results in Negaunee. Now, voters in the city voted yes to a bond proposal for $1.25 million to fund renovations to the Negaunee Ice Arena. We've been following that proposal for months here at TV6, and you may remember back in March, I had Negaunee City Manager Nate Heffron here on Beyond the Ballot to discuss the specifics of it. He told me then that the Negaunee Ice Arena would be facing a likely shutdown if the proposal did not pass. He said city officials wanted to see the facility saved, not just to provide opportunities for Negaunee residents, but for those living elsewhere in Marquette County and beyond. Voters agreed with just over 70% of those casting ballots also wanting to see the arena saved. We caught up with Heffron yesterday after the results came in for his reaction to the outcome.
I'm hoping at least for at least 30 years. We'll see. I won't be here then, but we'll be finding out all that information real soon. And then we'll have a continuous maintenance program with that unit to make sure it stays tip-top shape.
The proposal passing will result in a tax levy of 0.4979 mils. Well, now let's stay in Marquette County. Voters in the jurisdiction of Marquette Area Public Schools voted in favor of a bond proposal to help the district address aging infrastructure. In a much closer vote than that of Negaunee's, the city of Marquette, 3,628 voters, or 53.8% of ballots cast, wanted to see Marquette schools borrow a little more than $59 million for improvements to several of the district's buildings. That's compared to 3,116 voters, or 46.2%, who said no to the bond proposal. It's a 1.55 mil tax impact for those affected. The district says safety, infrastructure, and programming are the priority areas associated with the proposal. Now, back in the earlier episodes of Beyond the Ballot, I spoke with Zach Sedgwick, the superintendent of Marquette Area Public Schools, and he told me then that what this proposal would be used for, and we spoke to him earlier today as well. We'll have more on that on air on our TV6 Net Report at 10 Eastern and TV6 Late News at 11 Eastern. Sedgwick says the biggest projects made possible through the bond will be at Bothwell Middle School, and we're having plenty of school infrastructure improvements. That's a bit of a theme for yesterday's election, with 3 of the races we followed sharing that focus. I want to take you now east from Marquette County to Alger County, where another school district was asking for voters to support its plan to bring its buildings up to date. Just last week, I brought you my conversations with several Munising Public Schools staff members. Each talked to the need for this sinking fund proposal to pass. They discussed getting out and meeting voters where they were to convince them that the buildings and students were worth investing in. And it appears that they were able to successfully do so as the proposal passed with 53.8% of the vote. It follows several failed attempts at passing a sinking fund, which staff in the district say they've continued to feel the impacts of each year. The majority of the roughly $2 million that this sinking fund is estimated to generate will go toward work at Mather Elementary. When we talked previously, Superintendent Mike Travis told me more funding than what the district is able to come up with now on its own is needed to ensure the future of that building. Here's what he had to say today about what district leaders plan to do with that funding.
Making our buildings, more conducive to learning, improving, the quality of our education and our facilities is really important for the future of our kids, our staff, our school district, and the community.
Travis says the district will keep the community updated on progress and the project costs. Well, administrators at Trout Creek schools are looking at next steps as it too saw a bond proposal passed yesterday. I'll show you that one right now. Let's take a quick look at the outcome, which saw some residents of Houghton and Ontonagon counties vote in. 55% have voted for the proposal compared to 45% who voted against it. As we previously reported, that will allow for some projects within the district, like replacing kitchen items and buses. A 12-year proposal, it's expected to raise an estimated $6 million. The district's superintendent says for a school built 30 years ago, those funds will go a long way. Now, as far as the timeline for when students, staff, and community members can expect to see those improvements, here's what he had to say.
Because a lot of projects are inside the building, lighting, carpeting, what have you, some of those things may not be able to be done with students in the building. So it may have to be over a break or a spring break or possibly next summer.
That proposal was for a no mill increase. With it passing, the millage rate for taxpayers will stay the same at 4.8 mills. Had the vote failed, the rate would have dropped to 3.3 mills. And now parts of 4 western UP counties, Houghton, Keweenaw, Ontonagon, and Baraga counties, weighed in on a proposal impacting the Copper Country Intermediate School District. This one, unlike those that we've talked about, though, was not for infrastructure, but rather a program or continuing a program that currently exists. We'll take a look now at the results for that one. As I said, it's continued support for one of the district's programs, career and technical education programs. They will now continue getting funding at the same rate as voters approved a 10-year millage renewal. In what was the widest vote margin of any that we saw in Upper Michigan yesterday, nearly 80%, or 5,372 voters, wanted to see that program live on. The district superintendent said the last 10 years have laid the foundation for CTE programs. For the next 10 years, he says the ISD will be communicating with the community to gauge its needs.
Every 2 years, we have groups that get together and look at what jobs are needed in the Copper Country, what will our community support or not support, and we shift programming. These are community dollars. We take that very, very seriously.
The renewal is for 0.979 mills, a slight decrease from the original millage. It will support 13 programs, including automotive technology, construction trades, health careers, and welding. Programs the ISD says hundreds of students across 10 area high schools and homeschools participate in. Now, before we wrap up our overview of yesterday's election, let's take a look at some other results across the UP. These ones we haven't covered here on Beyond the Ballot, but they are still races that I felt are worth acknowledging and for you all to see. So Ontonagon County voters were largely in favor of a proposal for the district to continue levying the building and site sinking fund millage at 1.275 mills in 2027. In a much more narrow vote spanning Houghton and Baraga counties, 263 voters, or 52.8% of ballots, supported a bond proposal impacting the Baraga School District. That result means a millage increase of no more than 3 mills to help fund construction and school security. For 2027, the first of 10 years for the sinking fund, the district estimates it will collect roughly $475,000 in revenue. Dollar Bay Tamarack City Schools asked for and is now getting its ask of an 18 mil increase for properties located within the district's jurisdiction. An 8-year operating millage, district officials say it will collect about $28,106 next year. And finally, in a vote impacting some residents of Luce, Mackinac, Chippewa, and Schoolcraft counties, a proposal for the Tequamanon School millage has passed. As you see here, it will allow the district to levy the statutory rate of no more than 18 mills on all property. 57% of voters were in favor of the proposal, or 692 voters. 43% were against. There are even more elections and results that we have. In the interest of time, I won't be getting into here tonight. Head on over to our website's homepage to read more about those. Now, you likely noticed, for most of you, there were no candidates on the ballot yesterday. Those races will be appearing on your ballot in August for the primary election. And though that isn't all you'll have the chance to weigh in on, particularly for Marquette County voters out there. As we told you last night, voters in Marquette County will see 2 millage requests on their August ballot. At its meeting last night, the Marquette County Board voted to approve 2 requests. One, to increase the Department of Veterans Affairs' existing tenth of a mill by 5/100ths of a mill. The other is to maintain current funding for Mark Tran at 6/10 of a mil.
Mark Tran has 6/10 of a mil, and their millage just came up for renewal. So they're only a renewal. So just so people understand that it's not a new proposal. Although it has to get voted on periodically by the community. So Mark Tran's millage is up for renewal.
Again, both of those proposals are going to be appearing on August ballots. We'll bring you more details on both of those races on future episodes of Beyond the Ballot. And that's going to do it for tonight's special election recap episode of Beyond the Ballot. Many of the races I briefly covered tonight, we went much more in depth on earlier episodes of the show. All past episodes of Beyond the Ballot are available to you on demand. Head on over to our website, find the TV6 Live tab, scroll down until you see Beyond the Ballot, and you can check out all of them in our online archive. Now, you may notice that every proposal we followed here on Beyond the Ballot and TV6 passed last night. Even though the vote is behind us, I would strongly recommend watching those interviews if you're at all curious, just to learn a little bit more about where your tax dollars are going and why district officials, or city officials in Negauntee's case, believe it's a worthwhile investment. It's a lot to get into with this May election, but the fun is really just getting started for us fans of politics, because we have 2 more election days coming up later this year, as we've mentioned, August, and then in a little more than 6 months from now, our November 4th general election. A lot on the line in both of those elections that we're going to be covering in great detail here on Beyond the Ballot. So with that long road ahead of us, it makes sense that my next guest for the show would be someone in the thick of politics down in Washington, D.C. A few weeks ago, our TV6 White House correspondent John Decker visited the UP, and I was fortunate enough to get to sit down with him and ask some questions about his reporting process and just what it is that a White House correspondent does. We had a great conversation, and I'm very excited to bring you all that conversation on Friday. I hope you join me then. Now, in the meantime, if you have any feedback or questions or thoughts for me, please don't hesitate to reach out. As always, my email is on the bottom of your screen now. Please reach out with any feedback. I always appreciate hearing from you guys. That's going to do it for tonight's episode of Beyond the Ballot. Have a great rest of your night, and I will see you on Friday.